What is up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. A lot of stuff to get into today. Rocket League got a bit of an update that actually added some interesting graphical features to the Nintendo Switch and actually just raised the bar for some of the resolutions that we had seen prior on handheld mode. We're going to get into all of that. Spider-Man looks to be getting its release date today, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to talk all about that as well. So for today, guys, let's get started. So we're going to start right away with Spider-Man. This by far is one of my most anticipated titles for 2018. Ever since we found out that it was coming out this year, I remember we saw it all about this at E3 last year, and it looks like it might be at E3 this year. See, for a while I figured it was going to end up there, right? I figured we'd have a third straight E3 with Spider-Man. Well, that might not be the case. Now, what's happened here is Game Informer is going to be covering all of Spider-Man, and you're going to see all about it today. But they did reveal their May issues cover, and you're going to see that here. It is an awesome look at Spider-Man. They have some extra footage as well they put up. You'll see here soon as well. But first, take a look at this Game Informer cover. I think it is awesome. This is a great look at Spider-Man on the front of Game Informer. And you'll see some of the exclusive coverage trailer here. Looks great. I'm so excited to see Insomniac's take on Spider-Man. It's exclusive to PS4, so generally games that are exclusive to any one system take more advantage of that hardware than if it was a third-party game that goes to multiple platforms, because of course they have to account for multiple setups, whether if it goes to PC, PS4, and Xbox One, or Xbox One X and everything. They have to kind of be across the board, whereas this is PS4 only, so they are specifically designing just for the PS4. Now, the big thing here is they're not only going to give us a bunch of coverage about Spider-Man, they appear to be ready to tell us what the release date is. And that's where things get a little interesting. Insomniac even clarified this on Twitter, as you're going to see here, ensuring that, yes, it is a 2018 game. Absolutely, it's not getting delayed. And we will find out the release date today. That was yesterday. They said tomorrow. So today, we're going to find out a release date from Game Informer. And what's interesting to me is this is very early to tell us the release date, because I was positive we'd find out the release date at E3. So finding out the release date this early, what I mean by this early is this early in the year and not necessarily midway through June at E3, tells me that this might not fall as far into the year as I thought. Originally, I was looking at this and I said, okay, if Spider-Man's going to give us a release date, a good time, I think, for Spider-Man to release is sometime in August or early September, somewhere in there, right? I thought that was a good time, it was a good little place for it, but we're hearing about it now in April. The release date will be revealed today, so in April we're going to find out about this release date. That could place it at summer. So we might actually find out that this release date is closer to something like a June. GameStop, as people have been talking about now on Twitter all over the place, GameStop actually has the placeholder date as June 30th. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be June 30th, but it means that GameStop is even expecting a summer release for this thing. So wow, that would be very impressive if they actually put it out around E3, right? I mean, we've seen it so much now. It's graced 2 E3s. This could be it. We could see Spider-Man as their summer release. It's a good time to put it out near the Avengers Infinity War movie that's coming out. Actually coming out a week earlier now at the end of April. But still, that'll be fresh in people's mind. They see Spider-Man, it looks great, big open world, as we're hearing from Insomniac. Yeah, this could be a massive seller for Sony. In fact, I think it's very possible that Spider-Man actually outsells God of War, and the reason I say that is Spider-Man will more than likely be a teen rating. It's going to then really be interesting to people of all ages, not just mature gamers who are obviously 17 plus who can buy it at retail, or I guess younger gamers can have their parents buy it. But still, it's easy enough to sell, and generally if it's less than mature rating, that's why you see a lot of games try to get that if they can. Halo, for example, got that teen rating. You're going to sell to more people. So it's very interesting to see. I'm going to be looking forward to it. Keep an eye out today for that release date. And of course, we'll go over it tomorrow when we get more information. Then we'll take a look at when it's coming out and what we can expect for Spider-Man. It's really cool. Apparently the article is like a 14-page article with new screenshots, interviews, everything. I'm excited. Next up, let's talk about Chrono Trigger on Steam. This was a stealth release that came out weeks and weeks ago. Just randomly popped up on Steam and people were like, wait, Chrono Trigger's out now on Steam? This could be great. And then we kind of remembered what Square has done with Final Fantasy 5 and 6 and those releases, where they kind of took the mobile version and moved it over. And yes, our fears were met with what we kind of expected at that point. it was a mobile version of Chrono Trigger. It looked bad. The graphics looked really, it just didn't look good. If you bought it, you know what I'm talking about. It still had the phone interface. I talked about emojis in where you enter your name and everything. It was clear. It was pretty much just moved over from the phone version. So of course it got smashed with negative reviews like crazy. And then Square came out and said, listen, we hear you guys. We're going to make this right. And they kind of went silent after that, at least until yesterday, when they posted this on their Steam community board. We have been working on addressing the issues that you've raised and will be releasing a number of patches over the coming months as we continue to support Chrono Trigger on Steam. We're aiming to release the first of these patches in the first half of April, and the biggest change is that it will include an option to switch between the current high-resolution graphics and the original graphical style of Chrono Trigger. So at least it looks like they're acting on this, but there's a lot of stuff they need to fix. Really, this version should have never come out. They should have spent more time on it, maybe even talked about it, hyped it up some, because we would have waited for a good version of Chrono Trigger on Steam, absolutely, and they would have probably been able to get more money, maybe even up to $30 if it was a really good version of the game. Instead, they drop a very, very average to subpar, even bad version of the game, and that's hard to do when the PS1 version has ridiculous load times just jumping around the menu. Nope, this one is worse somehow. It's amazing to me, but it looks like they're going to be working to fix it. The visuals seem to be the first thing they're going to work out. They really need to get rid of that phone interface. It's just bad. And at this point, I was telling you guys before, the community is kind of fixing it anyway. So they're going to probably try to fix it, but by the time they even get halfway there, I have a feeling the community is going to be done because they already started working everything out. So we're going to see, I guess, what Square wants to do here, because it seems like people just weren't happy and they're now trying to really fix this in, I assume, a small amount of time, but we're going to see, because it's taken a little while for these patches to come out. And they seem to have the priorities on the high resolution visuals when they should be working on things like just the terrible looking phone interface. Next up, let's talk about Wild Guns Reloaded, because it did get a release date on the Nintendo Switch. Now this of course is out for Steam and PS4 and other systems, but it is coming to Nintendo Switch. They did announce that a month or so ago. And now we have at least a date that you can go pick it up. You can already pre-order, and it's going to be retail in store physically as well as digitally. Now, Natsumi Inc. sent out this press release that details it as April 17th, and it is going to be for a price of $29.99. Now, that of course will mean that you can then go to your local GameStops and pre-order it, or you should be able to pick it up at Walmart or any Target, anywhere else that you usually pick up your games. But it is finally coming out. April 17th is really cool. Now, they are going to be offering new modes as well, such as beginner mode and then a boss rush time attack mode as well. So if you're looking forward to Wild Guns Reloaded, you're not going to wait too much longer. We're looking April 17th. Pretty cool to see. I will be very curious to see if they add anything extra into the physical version, much like we've seen a couple other ones like Nicholas do, where they add in things like maps and stickers and keychains. I'll be curious if they add anything else to the physical version, although it appears to be the same price. So I'm going to assume that they're probably not even putting a manual in there. And our last bit of news, let's talk about a very big Rocket League update. Now, this update affected pretty much all versions of it because they did add tournaments as well, which is really cool. But what was interesting is they added some select graphical options for the Nintendo Switch that we're going to get into as well. But first, let's take a look at this update. And this is labeled as version 1.43, called the Tournaments Update. Players can now create and join tournaments, which is great. Quality connection status icons will appear in the HUD if players are experiencing connection problems. That's good as well, a little touch there. Players can now receive a chat ban, so I guess can't really chat anymore if you're being, if you're harassing people. Nintendo Switch video capture and then a quality mode have been added. We're going to talk more about that quality mode in a little bit. Expanded inventory organization, enhanced crowd audio, and overall, they just added a bunch of extra content, which included flags, crates and keys. They added new stuff there. The crates and keys are a little weird anyway, because you usually have to buy keys to open your crates. So they kind of get away with loot box there to a degree. But anyway, the biggest thing that I noticed that was very interesting is they added, of course, the video recording for the Nintendo Switch, and then they added a bunch of different modes. And by modes, I mean graphical options. So they have a performance mode that most people have been using, because that seems to be, from what I could tell, the default mode that we've already been using up until this point. That is the 60 frames per second mode. Docked, it's optimized for 60 frames per second at 900p, can scale down to that same frame rate at 720p. Handheld is optimized for 60 frames per second at 720p, which is the native resolution of that screen, and it can scale down to 576p. 1080p. Now, if you do decide to jump over to quality mode, they do have the frame rate, something we've seen other companies do when you port something from the PS4 or the Xbox One to the Switch, but it does retain a native 1080p in docked and a native 720p in handheld mode. Quality mode also enables several graphics features automatically, which does include lens flares, light shafts, dynamic shadows, and depth of field. So this is good for people who like to have that visual style. Maybe you don't mind the frame rate being halved at 30 frames per second. I personally do. I prefer to have the 60 frames per second. Now, I did fire it up as well in handheld mode, and I was a little surprised because it looks like they've actually already increased it anyway in performance mode. It seems to not drop as low resolution-wise. Before, man, it looked bad sometimes. Like, it was probably dropping very low in resolution. We saw it with Digital Foundry, where it had like no modes, no features were going with graphical features, and it dropped heavily in resolution. It appears that it does seem to at least the floor be 576p, and it seems to be above that a lot of times. I'm telling you, when I was playing it, I was like, okay, this does look a little better. And of course, that quality mode is there. It's interesting to see this. I think I would like to see most games that can touch 60 frames but cut down on all of your visual features do that. Just have the option. Really, I mean, just give us the option. We saw it before with Fire Emblem Warriors, I believe, as well, where they added in 2 different modes. You could have like a quality mode and a performance mode. I like this. I like seeing this. I leave performance mode on, but I'm sure there are people out there who want to see it look really good, and they're playing on the Switch at 30 frames per second. That's fine too. I like the options. That's the biggest thing. And honestly, at this point, Panic Button, they're doing good work with the Switch. So now I'm really interested to see this Wolfenstein 2 port from them, because they seem to be getting a lot of experience with the Switch. Panic Button, of course, is handling the port to the Switch. They've been the ones going back to make these updates, so they have not given up on the Rocket League version, even though it was at least good enough. I mean, it's not like WWE 2K18 that cannot seem to get things right. Rocket League at least worked, and it didn't look great in handheld mode. Looks better now. So good job, Panic Button. I can't wait to see what you have for us with Wolfenstein 2. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really does help out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today. Rocket League, performance mode, or quality mode? Which one are you using? I feel like a lot of people are going to use performance mode, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that really like that native 1080p with all the graphical features on. Maybe you don't mind the 30 frames per second. Rocket League's pretty fast. I've always played it at 60 frames per second on every system, and I have it on every system. I'm not kidding. I have it on everything. So I'll stick with performance. But hey, it's cool to have options. Also, let me know what you think about Spider-Man. Are you as excited about Spider-Man as I am? Because I cannot wait to see when this thing comes out. I hope it comes out in May. It's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be later in the year, but I mean, bring it on. The earlier, the better now. I've heard about this thing for years now. Let's actually get a chance to play it. I'm excited. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for Newswave.